Mold is another issue that is commonly encountered when you're doing seed starting, and the fan that Carrie talked about last is a great way to help with it. So not only is the fan going to spread the air around and make it to where it's not stagnant, because that's what can lead to mold. That's going to really help. But it's also going to help strengthen the plants as well, like she mentioned on the last slide. So that's one thing we do is we always have a fan. Now we don't have a fan going on the one in the kitchen because I don't want to hear a fan going in the kitchen. That one we're just going to be dealing with. Like we're not really doing a lot of our plan for this kitchen area is to do a lot of microgreens here, not necessarily to do a lot of our like seed starting right there because we have a ton of seed starting space out in our garage. Carrie, can you pull up a picture of our seed starting area that we have in the garage so they can kind of see what we're and we recorded a lot of content out there. Like we were doing our live streams from out there last
There's
year.
one.
So this is like we have one of these wire racks there. We have like a bunch of these
Sorry.
shelves set up. Like, yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is we have a lot of seed starting area out there. So that's where we're going to be doing most of our actual seed starting. But indoors is where here's where we're doing our microgreens. So that's why we don't have a fan there, but a fan will definitely help out. We've also used cinnamon and hydrogen peroxide to help out in the past. And also, this is where sanitization really comes in. This is why we're going, like, we've spent so much time power washing and bleaching and all that because we skipped that one year and it was a
Yeah.
disaster.
Oh, yeah.
So
It made
never
such
again.
a huge difference. We're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe, we hadn't done this." Oh,
And this is also another reason why I recommend the biodome because you're going to have way less issues with mold because the sponges come to you like already sanitized, ready to go. Like the biodome's already ready to go. Whenever you're dealing with like seed starting mixes, and especially if you're reusing any seed starting mixes, then you potentially have to go through and bake it to sanitize it and do things like that. There's a lot to it. So
we did have a question earlier because don't worry, if you guys ask a question, I'm trying to come back to them as we go. But we did have a question about baking the soil, like how to go about doing that.
okay. Yep. So it's pretty simple. It's going to make your house smell bad. I will warn you that we learned that because I think last year was the first time we really like baked soil because we wanted to test it out and we were just doing a lot of experimenting on this last year. So it's going to make your house smell bad. That is one thing. But it's as simple as it sounds. We basically just put the soil in. The easiest way we found to do it was we have these like, really big aluminum trays that we get from Sam's Club. They come in like a big pack and we use them for all sorts of stuff. And this is one of the things we use them for is like those really big aluminum trays. We would just fill it with soil and then just bake it. Do you remember the details on how long we baked it or the
Oh my
temperature
gosh,
or
we baked it until it reached a certain temperature. I know because we would pull it out and stir it, and then we would use our temperature gun to find
yeah.
out what the temperature.
Let us do some research on this, get the solid answer, and we'll put out a video and blog post that
Yeah,
details exactly. So we'll put that out in the next few days because I don't want to guide you wrong on the details. It's been a year since we did it, but we'll put out all the details on how we baked our soil and all that.
yeah. And then before we move to the next slide, Robin had a question about how to use the cinnamon and peroxide. So I'll tell you, whenever we had mold issues and I didn't clean my stuff beforehand, a bad Carrie, I knew better, but we had issues with mold. So I mean, really, if you just take the cinnamon and just go through and sprinkle it on the top. Like Dale walked in one day, he was like, "What happened in here?" And I was like, "Oh, I put cinnamon in there, and now it's all better." So
Yeah, I
um,
didn't know what it was. I just saw like all over like the biodome.
yeah,
Like,
because I spilled
yeah,
some on like the white part too, and he's like, "What is?" But yeah, it helps so fast, and it really does help a lot if you have issues with mold. And then you can also do a hydrogen peroxide spray. It's like, oh man, I looked up earlier. I think it was 4 parts hydrogen peroxide to 1 part water that you put into a spray bottle, and you just go through and spray the top. Now you don't want to like overdo that, but I do that at least once if I'm having issues with mold, and that will also like sanitize it.